Let me tell you briefly, but precisely how he is. Jason has been investing in real estate since 1991. His portfolios throughout the southern United States and Midwest. He and his students acquire hundreds of properties annually. He wrote a book called Real Good Deeds that became an Amazon bestseller, and he created a step-by-step research system that allows new and experienced investors to acquire properties for as little as 10 cents on the dollar. His rental portfolio from tax deed has a uh, net cash on cash ROI of over 22%. Um, and from here, I'll let you take it away, Jason.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here with everybody. This is a format that's still a little bit difficult for me. I do train on Zoom with my own students, every week, and as much as I love it, it's really, really hard to speak to names in black squares. So if you could just maybe do me a favor, and if you are, appropriately dressed, I don't care about your makeup or hair, but as long as we're not going to be shocked, turn on your camera as much as you can. It just helps me see that seeing a face helps me speak to people rather than just go through a presentation. So I want to customize and change this as much as I possibly can, because really what's most important is the information that I give you. How is it going to have any impact on you? So we will have a question and answer period. I'm going to encourage you during that time to go down to the bottom. You can raise your hand digitally. You can go do that when it's question and answer time, and I'll answer questions, or I'll do my best if I can see your hand to just call on you. You'll then need to unmute yourself. Let me go ahead and share screen. We'll go ahead and get started, and here we go. All right, just a little bit about tax lien and tax deeds to start with. It is without a doubt it's the cheapest way that exists to purchase property. You cannot get a property cheaper than from a tax lien. Why? Well, because when it happens, and we'll talk about the regularity of it and everything else, when it happens, you're literally picking up the property for back taxes. So it is an acquisition method when done properly that allows you to pick up properties for under 50 cents on the dollar. So my students for the last couple of decades are taught, if it's more than 50 cents on the dollar, don't buy a tax deed, because tax deeds they come with a pain in the butt. They're not a warranty deed. There's issues around it, and you're dealing with the law. And if you can't make a really good sum of money, then just work with work with the MLS, work with Sarah. She sounds fantastic. We all need great realtors. So this is really an acquisition method for people who are wanting to acquire assets for a fraction of their value. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into it. What is a tax lien? I'm going to start with tax liens because a tax lien is what this entire industry is based on. Whether it's a tax deed or a tax lien, it all started as a lien. So what is it? It's a first position lien placed on a property for failure to pay property taxes. That's all it is. And in all 50 states, a resident can be 12 months late without threat of lien. But as soon as they're 12 months late, each state mandates that the county lien the property. Now, an important thing is the first word in that bullet point right there. It is a first position lien. So this is a difficult thing for many people to understand. And if we can't get past this, then the rest of what I teach is going to be difficult to grasp. So how on earth does a lien created today jump ahead of a mortgage, or jump ahead of the IRS, or jump ahead of things that have been there for years, decades? Well, it's just a matter of law. And if you understand lien priority, what determines the priority of a lien is the date of filing. So we're going to talk a lot about the law, because everything in the tax foreclosure world is based on state law. So in all 50 states, what determines the priority of a lien is the date of filing. And a mortgage company, when they sell a home and they transfer a warranty deed from owner to owner, they'll make sure that they get title insurance. They'll make sure that everything's crystal clean and that it's perfect. And then they will attach the first lien to this property. And that lien will go on effective the date of that closing. Now, or at least the date of the recording if they don't close, if they don't record it immediately. They should, but not all of them do. So as soon as it's recorded at the court, that is the first position lien. So then how does a lien today go in front? Well, it's simple. It goes to date of filing. What was filed first, the mortgage or the creation of the parcel? So it defaults to the date the parcel was subdivided. That date is before anything else occurred on the property, and therefore anything associated with the dirt itself will be a first position lien. So all municipal liens are first position liens. That would include sewer assessments and water and so forth. If they are attached to the dirt, then their lien priority is first position because of date of filing. Just a little interesting thing, but it helps you feel good. We have a first position lien, and depending on the state, that lien will bear an interest rate of between 8 and 24%. And that's just a matter of state law. I will tell you right now, 8%, don't waste your time. You should not be a tax lien investor for less than, I would say, 12 to 15, 16%. Why? Well, because you can get 9% just with mutual funds. No load mutual funds are averaging 9% since their inception. So why would I do the real estate research to get 8%, which is less than mutual funds? It doesn't make sense. If you're going to play in the real estate game, you need to beat the market, and the market's 9%. So we need to do much better than that. So 8%, don't do it, but 24%, if you want to write it down, that's Iowa. Fantastic. It's the highest interest rate for a lien in the country. Now, how does that work? When a lien is placed on a property, it's in first position and a clock starts ticking. And according to state law, depending on the state, an interest rate is attached to it. Why is the interest rate so high? That seems to some to be usury. Well, it has to be a high interest because there's no other collection mechanism. People, it doesn't report to their taxes. They have years that they can be late without threat of losing the property. So in order to motivate people to pay, the states usually attach quite a large interest rate to it. Now, they become foreclosable if they are not redeemed, and the word redeem simply means that people go in and pay their taxes in full. That's how old property tax liens are. The oldest one I could find was dated 1698, so before we were even a country. It's been going on a long time, and the language back then was biblical language. The word redeem literally means to be made whole. And in property taxes, unlike income tax, you can't make it payments on it. You have to redeem the entire thing with all of the interest that is accrued, and it's one chunk. Now, that redemption period, or grace period would be another word for it, depends on the state. It just depends on the state, but every state will have a grace period. So they're late a year, the lien is created, it's first position bearing an interest rate, and there's a time period attached to it, at which point, if they do not redeem, that lien becomes foreclosable. And that's important because it's in first position. So whoever owns that lien can foreclose on whom? Everybody below them. The mortgage, the IRS, and everybody below them would have to pay the lien holder off. The lien holder would not have to pay the secondary and tertiary liens off. So that's what makes it a great investment. Now, I want you to see the size of this. There are over 14 million new liens going to market every single year, coast to coast. Here is Yavapai County. I'm originally from Arizona. I spent 8 years of my life in Latin America and speak Portuguese and Spanish fluently. I love to be a citizen of the world, but Arizona is home. And I live in Vegas now, but anyway, this is Yavapai County, and it's a great little county. The capital of that, or the county seat, is Prescott, Arizona, if you've ever heard of it. And you'll see on the left-hand side, lien number 1. It says item 1, and then if I go down to the next page, you'll see the last one on the right-hand column, the small number there. It's item 3064. So little Yavapai County, in 1 year, put 3,064 liens up for auction. And you can see the cost is nominal. Property taxes are not expensive. I want to have this discussion very quickly. Property taxes in general are going to be 1% of FMV. So whatever the FMV is, this is true coast to coast. There's slight variations if the state doesn't have income tax, like Texas is going to be closer to 3% of FMV because they don't have state income tax. Florida is going to be closer to 2%. Where I live in Nevada, we're about 1.5% because we have gaming that adds to that with the casino industry. So generally, coast to coast, it's about 1%. So if it's a $500,000 house, property taxes are about 5 grand. That's just about how it works. So take a look at this. Here is a $49 lien you could buy in Arizona at 16%. So anyone can afford to do this, but should you buy a $59 lien for 16 or $49 lien for 16%? Answer no, because if that's a 1% reflection of the value of the property, you do not want to own a 400 and or excuse me, a $4,966 property. It's just a little chip of land. It's a useless piece of land. I wouldn't even research it. And I meet people who say, "Well, I bought a few liens," and I say, "Tell me about it." Well, I just tried it. So I bought a $200 lien. I bought a $300 lien, and I got redeemed, or I never got redeemed, and it didn't work for me. That is not the way you invest. We don't invest with luck, and we certainly do not want to buy a lien and hope we get the property. You might as well just it's a lottery mentality. You might as well just buy a lottery ticket. No, when we buy a lien, we're buying a lien for the interest rate. This is 16%. So if you have the jingle in your bank account, buy this one. That's over $100,000 for one lien at 16%. It's much less research. It's one property instead of if I bought to spend $100,000 at 16% at $50 a lien, how many properties would I have to research, right? So anyway, just to show you kind of how it works. Now, a little bit about Arizona more. This is my home state. 16% interest. It is a 3-year redemption. So that means if you buy that lien, you're going to be earning 16% per year, not 16% divided by 3, but 16% each year. So on the 100 grand, you'd make, $16,000 a year in interest. Now, I want to show you that this is actual law, and this is exactly why so few people professionally become lien and deed investors. There's lots of people who dabble in it because it sounds awesome. But the reason that most real estate investors do not become professional tax lien and tax deed investors is because it's all based on law, and there's 5,013 taxing jurisdictions. It's complicated. So let me go ahead and show you the law. Every state will have a variation of this phrase or this clause. It says this: the tax lien takes priority over the claim of any person whose property is encumbered by the tax lien and over the claim of any holder of a lien on the property, whether or not the lien existed before the attachment of the tax lien. So in every state, this is ahead of everything else. It's by law. There's no exception to that. And if you look at the way the deal flows, it works this way. Let's take a home here. Let's say this state is an 18% state. This is a fictitious state, by the way. There is no state at 18% with a 1-year redemption. So I did that on purpose because I don't want to give you states and have you go, that's where I'm going. I'm headed to Arizona or I'm headed to Pennsylvania. There's no magic. You just got you have to know what you're doing and do it properly, and any state can become a good state for you. So here's an 18% theoretical state with a 1-year redemption period. Let's say this house has a $300,000 FMV. And I know in Boston, you're thinking that's a shack, but I assure you most of my portfolio is in the deep South, and $300,000 is a home you'd be proud to live in. So it's kind of strange, but it's true. So let's say it's a $300,000 house. So their property taxes that they did not pay that have become late are $3,000. And let's say that they have a $225,000 mortgage. Now, in most cases, if it's on the list for a tax lien, there will be no mortgage, because in most cases, people with a mortgage will have an escrow account, and the mortgage company will make sure that those taxes are paid in a timely way, because they don't want to go to second position. And in a mortgage, the payment of the mortgage, once they're 90 days late, they're in foreclosure. So it's not going to get a year late with taxes if there's an escrow account. But let's just say these people don't have an escrow account. They're responsible for paying their own taxes. So this is the theoretical example here. Now, once these people are a year late in paying their taxes, the county by law will have to lien them. They create a document. That document gets recorded by the county clerk of courts or the county recorder's office, and it is recorded, and it is in first position ahead of anything that may have already been there, including the IRS. IRS are junior to property taxes. Okay, the IRS is junior to the mortgage. The only thing about the IRS is it has seizure right, meaning they could seize the property. Well, I don't care if this lien is in first position, the IRS seizes the property, my lien's still on it. They then have a seizure sale, an auction, and sell the house, and whoever buys it still has my lien on it and has to satisfy that lien, or I'll foreclose and take the property myself. Okay? So don't worry about the IRS. They're down the line. They're never going to be in first position. Now, how much money has come into the bank account of the county once they created that lien? And the answer is zero. There's no money. They just created a lien. And that is a very difficult thing for a county to budget. To budget $0 and pay teachers 55 to 65% of all property taxes, pay for school districts. The balance go to fire, to police, roads, bridges, hospitals, parks, and so forth. They need this revenue, and they don't get it from over 14 million properties a year. So in about half the states, every state they will lien them, but in about half the states, 26 states to be exact, the state law requires that the county attempt to sell the liens to investors at a public auction. So they have to announce the auction, they have to provide the list for free, or for a very nominal fee. And then they encourage investors to come. Now, I'm going to say you're on the right-hand side, and you get that list about 30 days before the auction, and you identify this house, and you want to own the house. And that's key. You never, ever, ever buy a lien on a home you do not want to own. That does not mean you're going to own the home. It doesn't mean you mentally are preparing yourself to own it. But if you do not want to own the home, don't buy the lien. Why? Because the insurance policy on this investment is the property. And if it's 2 feet wide and 400 feet long, you don't want it. So don't buy the lien, because you won't get redeemed on that. You will lose your money. You'll then have to pay to foreclose to try to get your money back, and nobody's going to stop foreclosure. Now it's yours, and you owe taxes on it every year. Don't do that. You've got to want the property. So I'm going to say you want this property, and you participate in the auction, and you pay the county, and you buy the lien. That ownership of the lien has now been transferred, and the ownership transfer has been recorded at the county clerk of courts or county recorder's office. So you are now in first position. Quick question. You can answer this just in your own heads. Did you pay the taxes for the resident or for the owner of the property on the left? Answer: no, you did not. You bought the lien. For heaven's sakes, do not go to a county, do a little bit of poor research, and say, I would like to pay the taxes on this property, because they will let you. We do not pay people's taxes. We buy liens. So now you own the lien, the taxes are still due, and the clock is ticking. They have 1 year from the date of the auction to go in and redeem. And what is the most likely outcome? Well, sometime during the year, they're going to go ahead and they're going to pay, what's going on here? The 18%, sometime within the year, and by the way, usually at the very end. And they're not going to send it to you. They're going to go pay their taxes to the county. See, here in my business, you never have to deal with the people. You deal with the county, and they want to help you because they want your revenue. They want you to buy these liens. So it's not, knocking on doors and bandit signs and talking to people who are losing their property and angry at the world. You just talk to Sally down at the county or Sam down at the county, and they give you the list. You identify the properties you want. You buy the lien on it, sit back and wait. You don't have to mow the grass. You have no rights to the property. You have no responsibilities to the property. It's exactly like buying a CD at a bank. You're just waiting. It's a financial instrument. When they redeem, the county now needs to extinguish the lien. So by law in all 50 states, they have 2 weeks, that's 10 business days, to get you your money. Okay? That's the way it works. So they pay you, not the owner. So that's the way it works. You get all your money back plus your 18%. Everybody wins. Who wins in that scenario? Well, the county won because you provided cash flow that they needed so they could pay their teachers on time. The homeowner won because they got an extra 2 years to pay their taxes. So whatever they were going through has been remedied, and they're back on top of their game and paying their taxes. And you won because you made 18% on money that you had sitting in a CD making 3.5%, 4%. So it's a much better deal. But look at the security here. I'm not saying this is going to happen. In fact, I'm telling you it won't happen. But what if? On the odd chance, and I'm talking about 0.0000001% chance, these people do not pay and the bank does not pay and you foreclose, you would end up owning that home. So you are collateralized in the investment, unlike the stock world, where you're collateralized by a stock that is just worth the paper it's printed on. Stock is only worth what the public will pay for it. But that asset, that house, that's worth money. So it's a very, very safe investment. And how's the rate of return? How's 18% compared to the stock market? Well, it's double a mutual fund. So we're outperforming the market significantly in a safer way. Now, let's say they do not come in a year. That lien is still alive. What do? You contact the county and say, I have not been redeemed. I'm the lien holder of record. I need to begin foreclosure. Then all the notices will go out from your attorney. You'll have to hire an attorney to do this. It doesn't happen automatically. You'll hire a real estate attorney, bar admitted in the state that you're doing the deal in. They'll send out the notices to the homeowner and the bank and everybody else, and they will have a time period. Depending on the state, somewhere between 30 days and 6 months, they will have a time period to be able to stop that foreclosure. And how would they stop it? By paying you all your money back, plus your legal fee back, plus the interest on all your money, including in most states, interest on your legal fee. So go ahead. God bless you. I hope you keep your house. That's about the point of my book, guys. Real Good Deeds is I'm a social entrepreneur. Okay, I'm absolutely a capitalist, but I'm a conscious capitalist, which, by the way, is a great book, Conscious Capitalism. Um, Everything I do, I will not invest anymore in a project if it's not going to benefit somebody else. And when I invest in tax liens, I'm blessing the lives of that city, the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, everybody they teach and everybody they serve. We're fixing roads, we're fixing bridges. We're providing much needed capital into a municipality. And if you ask me, the most important branch of our government is our local counties. That's what determines our quality of life more so than anything else. So it's wonderful. Quick show of hands. How many of you can think of at least one county that needs more revenue? Can I see your hands? All right. That's where you want to invest because you're going to be doing some social good while making a whole bunch of money. And doesn't that feel good? Right? Well, what would happen if you contact the county, you go through the foreclosure? What would happen? Well, they're going to receive a notice. The notice will quote the law in the state. And here again is an exact quote from the state of Illinois, so you can see how it works. Every state's going to be basically the same, worded slightly different maybe. But this petition serves as notice to the interested parties that foreclosure process has been commenced and the foreclosure will result in the loss of ownership of the property and all rights of all interested parties. It's absolute language. And if nobody were to step up and take care of paying you back, that $300,000 house would become yours and the mortgage would become disassociated with the property and you would own it free and clear for your $3,000 plus legal fee. Now, how often does that happen? I'm going to stop share for a moment and I'm not seeing my cursor. There it is. I'm going to stop share for a moment and ask a question. How often do you think it happens that that you don't get paid back and that you foreclose and end up getting the house? Anybody want to take a guess and raise your hand? I'll call on you. Nobody's brave enough. That's okay. I'll go ahead and tell you. It doesn't happen. In my experience, you're going to get exactly what you wanted, which was 18% on your money. Okay, so if you've ever gone to any hotel and there's some tax lien company telling you if you buy a tax lien and do not get paid back, you get the property, they are either A, lying to you because that's not the truth, or B, they don't know themselves. They're ignorant to the fact. The reality is you're never going to get a $300,000 house for $3,000 because what's going to happen when the bank is notified? I mean, heaven forbid the people are dead. The notification of the foreclosure goes to them and nobody answers, but it's going to go to that bank. And when it goes to the bank and there's $75,000 of equity, what's the bank going to do? They're going to do it. You're going to get redeemed. You do not get a house from tax lien to tax deed, at least not a house you would be proud to own. You might get little pieces of land. You might get, in fact, some nice land. But houses, that is not the way to do it. There's a different game that we play, and I'm excited to be able to teach you that game here tonight as well. So let's jump back into it, and I will go to the presentation again and share my screen. Okay? So I won't go into this. Bottom line is, you know that this is fact. Forbes magazine substantiates it. There's a lot of information out there that talk about how big the industry is. But guys, it isn't magic. Okay? It isn't magic, and it takes time to learn. I do want you to know I can't teach you everything in the time frame I have here tonight with you. I'm going to try to finish in an hour and 15 from start. So I am going to be inviting you to come learn in detail. And it's going to be done like this on Zoom, live with me teaching you. And I don't outsource my teaching to somebody if you've gone to these events where you think you're going to meet the one that's on HGTV and then somebody else shows up. No, this is me doing my training, and I'm very particular about that. My workshop is going to be a 2-day fast track to success workshop where I roll up my sleeves, go live online, and teach you the process of researching properties on real lists. I'm going to show you real lists. We're actually going to have a fake auction during the workshop, and you will learn actionable knowledge so that you can begin to start do this. Now, it will be held on March. Go ahead and take a picture of that if you'd like. On March the 21st and the 22nd. I live in Las Vegas, so we're going to base everything on Pacific time. I mean, no offense, but I'm not smart enough to remember all the time zones. So here we go. I start at 8 a.m. Pacific. I'm smart enough to know East Coast is 3 hours ahead. So it's going to be 11 a.m. Friday, and it'll run to 7 p.m. We'll have plenty of breaks, and I'll have time for you to get your lunch and so forth. But 11 to 7 p.m. on day one, and then it'll go 8 a.m. or 11 a.m. your time up to, that would be 5 p.m. on Saturday. So that's when it's going to be held. And we'll talk about that a bit later on. Okay. Now let's jump back into training. Let's take just the timeline so you can kind of see how it works. Let's say that the homeowner fails to pay their taxes when they're due, 2024, let's say, and they become a year late. By law, what will the county do when they're a year late? They're going to put a lien on them. How much revenue is generated from that lien? Zero. So they hold an auction. And the auction is going to generally be held in most places once a year or twice a year, depending on the laws of the jurisdiction that you're working in. Occasionally, they're just random. Whenever they have inventory, they'll hold them. And sometimes some places will hold them as often as every week until they're out of inventory. All right, so they're going to hold an auction, and they will sell that. By the way, just so you know, Arizona is always February. Florida is always May and June. Colorado is always November. So it just depends. All right. Now you get the list and you find a property you really like and you buy the lien at the auction. What is your duty and responsibility for that property? You just wait. Just like if it's a CD at the bank, you just wait. And if it's a 3-year redemption, you will have earned, you will not get paid this, but you will have earned 16% in this case for 3 years. So if it's a $10,000 lien, you made $1,600, or you earned $1,600 your first year, you earned another $1,600 your second year, and a third $1,600 your third year. When do you finally get all your money back with all of that interest? Whenever they redeem. So when do we want them to redeem when we invest in liens? Well, we'd like them to redeem the last day of the third year, right? So I get as much interest as possible. And when are they most likely to redeem? Honestly, last day of the third year. And I don't know why this is. You guys are I love speaking to REIAs because you know what it's like to own properties and be landlords. Raise your hand real quick. How many of you have somebody that's in one of your doors that is a chronic late payer of their rent every single month? They're constantly late, and they have been, and they always will be, and they'll pay that extra $50 forever, right? Some people are just wired to pay their bill last second. So that's these people. They're a year late. They're not going to pay it the day after you buy it. They're already late. They know they're not in threat of losing their house for 3 more years. They're going to redeem you on the last day of the third year. Some of them wait until they're in foreclosure to do it. And that's good for us. But what if they don't? Well, if they do not do it, it is your responsibility to foreclose. It is your responsibility to foreclose. Now, for everything I teach you, you never get a house from lien to deed. You never get a house, foreclose, and get the house. I told you 0.00001% of the time, I actually have gotten many houses from liens to deeds, but I've done a lot of deals. So I don't want that to be your expectation because that's a lottery mentality. But let me show you an actual deal. This is a house in Indiana. I bought it at a lien auction for $4,400. Okay. I bought the lien for $4,400. I had to pay $750 to foreclose on the home. The foreclosure time period was 4 months. The redemption period was 4 months. 8 months later, I owned that home. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but it's a little 2 bedroom, 1 bath in rural Indiana. I knew I would have a good chance of not getting redeemed on this because the owner was dead. I did my research. I knew probably not going to pay their taxes. I also knew that the person living inside was not a family member. I did my research. I knew that the person living inside was paying $450 a month rent to a shyster who did not own the property and created a false lease document so that the renter could turn on the power and the gas and the water. So I'd done my research. I knew what was up. We got this property and I sold it to the person who was renting it from somebody else who didn't even own it for 20 grand. I've never been inside the house. I just took a $2,000 down payment and put them on payments of $234 a month. And my rate of return on that, not including my interest over time as a seller finance, is 288% return. And who won here? The person who was renting the home from the fraudster, paying $450 a month, is a disabled veteran. Why did I sell him the home for $40,000 under value? Because I could. That's how cheap we get our properties. And I'm not a saint, guys. Quick show of hands. How many of you'd be okay if you could do some social good and help a few people out, if you could make nearly 300% on your deals? Can I see your hands? It makes it easier to do the right thing. When you're running on cap rates of 8%, you're white knuckling everything. Man, I hope they pay because I got a mortgage due next month, and if they don't pay, I got enough money for a couple of months. But man, I hope another COVID doesn't happen because then the government says they don't have to pay me. White knuckling. There is a better way. There is a way we can have a section of our portfolio. Not that that kind of ownership is bad, but I suggest strongly that you create a portion of your portfolio that is made up of fully paid off, debt-free, cash flow producing assets. My portfolio is properties that I have acquired and fixed for less than $50,000 on average and that rent for $1,000 a month on average. So just think through those numbers. It changes the game. Okay? And we can get those completely debt free. I'll show you how to do that in my 2-day conference. Moving forward. As I said, he's paying $324 a month for 10 years. He'll pay a total of $40,000 on that when he goes full term on the loan. And that's the way I like to do it. I like to eliminate my property management and carry the note. There's a great book out there if you want to learn about it other than mine. It's called The Art of the Long Flip. Okay. Just to show you, I'm not going to spend much time on this, just the power of compounding dollars and the importance of getting as much interest as you can possibly get on your money. $5,000 invested one time and left alone for 30 years at 8% in mutual funds will grow to $50,000 over 30 years. In Arizona, it would grow to 429 if you never got a house. In Florida, it would grow to 716,000 if you never got a house. And in Texas, which is not a lien state, it's a deed state, but it does provide an interest rate. That's why I said the highest is 24 in Iowa, but you can actually beat it by 1 point in Texas using a system that they have there for deeds. And Texas, your $5,000 over 30 years, if you never got a property, would grow to over 4 million. And the difference is just who you write your check to. You have to determine, are you going to write your check to somebody that you've always written your check to, your bank, your CD, your stockbroker, or you're gonna gain a different skill set and do something a little different? Now, I realize that this sounds too good to be true. And what's the downside, Jason? And we have to cover that, and I need to be fully candid and honest. There is a downside. These are sold generally at auction, and when you participate in an auction, you're going to compromise your rate of return. The number one auction type out there is a bid down the interest rate auction. So let's take Florida, for example, starts at 18%. Would you take this great property on the beach, Pinellas County, right? Right across from Tampa, where I am right now, out on Clearwater Beach and St. Pete. Would you take this property at 18%? Yes. Would anybody take it for 17, 16, 15, 14? Down it goes. Low bid wins. And because people have been taught that if they buy a lien and don't get paid back, they get the house, how low do you think people will go in an auction? They'll go all the way to zero. In fact, Florida encourages them to. Florida says if you bid less than 5% and win, we'll give you 5. So everybody bids zero in Florida, and then they have a lottery system with all the zero bidders, and they're awarded a 5% lien. No, thank you. Just buy mutual funds. You got to know what you're doing. So there is a downside. Auctions are not good. Furthermore, even if you win 98 to 99% plus, redeem. You don't get the property. And in fact, I like to say you never get the property, but that's not true. I just want the right frame of mind. There are certain ways, certain places, certain states, certain times of year where I get the property over 90% of the time. And my students do as well. But you have to have that skill set to be able to do it. Just generally buying a lien, you're not going to get the property. And do you want the property? Okay, just everybody do a quick 30-second exercise. Grab your phone real quick. And on your phone, go to your calculator. And if you have a real phone, an iPhone, I'm sorry, that's a bad joke if you don't have an iPhone. I just don't know how it works if you have anything other than iPhone. You can just swipe down on the right and your calculator's there. If you have a different kind of phone, go there. On your calculator, would you please type in the total amount of available capital cash you have ready to invest? Go ahead and just type that into your phone, into your calculator, and then multiply that number by 0.24. That's the highest interest you can get is 24%. So if you got $100,000 liquid cash right now to invest, you're going to make $24,000. If you didn't participate in any auctions, you got everything at the opening bid of 24%. Is that enough? Is that going to move your needle as far as building wealth for yourself and your family quickly enough? Is the number you're looking at 24% of your capital? Is it going to grow fast enough? Most of my students for over 20 years will say, Jason, I got to grow my capital faster. In other words, you don't need liens. Liens are great for some of your, what I call lazy money, the money sitting in money markets and CDs. What you need are houses. And how do you do that? Well, to get a house, we have to work a different way, okay? To get a house, we're going to work with deeds. Now, here's a map of the country. Just take a quick picture of that. The blue are deed states. They don't sell liens. They sell the deed to the property. They hold the lien until the redemption period is over. And if the people do not come in and pay the taxes, redeem the taxes in time, the county itself will foreclose. And then the county will hold an auction, not of liens, but now of a deed that is called a tax deed or a limited warranty deed or a sheriff's deed, depending on the jurisdiction. Same thing. It's a tax foreclosed property. And the blue states are deed states. The purple states are redeemable deed states, meaning it's a deed, but there's a redemption period. The gold states are dual states, meaning they sell both liens and deeds. Okay, so that helps you kind of understand where you might want to work. Now, I am going to talk briefly about the lovely state of Massachusetts. It's a deed state. And it does a great job. The problem is you live in one of the most competitive real estate markets in the country, and things are getting bid for my students who want to participate in New York and in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, they're getting some good deals, but in Massachusetts and New York, things are tending to go at auction for 80 cents plus on the dollar. And if they're letting the property go for back taxes, you're going to need to do some rehab on it. It's going to be it's going to be a project. And bottom line is, if you're getting it for 80 cents on the dollar plus doing work, it's hard to make money. So most of my students are going to develop a portfolio out of state. I live in Nevada, and our real estate now is as pricey as anywhere in California. So I don't invest in the West at all. I never have. Every investment I've made, barring the houses that I live in, every investment has been out of state. So that's my specialty. It's what I teach. Again, I don't have time today to do that, but I did want you to see what states do what. One other thing. People say, Jason, how long does it take to learn how to, kind of master this? Really, once you're trained and you understand how to do research and you know how to get the list, you know how to break the list down, you'll spend somewhere around 5 or 10 hours a week to be able to find way more properties than you have revenue you have capital to buy. So it's not a time consuming thing once you're trained to do it. Now, speaking of training, I have a member area of my website at taxlientutor.com. And in that member area, I have the map and over 200 hours of training on video and lots of resources. But one cool thing about the map in here is I've gone through and paid very smart people to pull every law down. And when you click a state, it brings up the actual law from the state so you can read right from the state and know what their rules and regulations are state by state by state. Okay? But I do want to teach you now. I want to transition to deeds. Get the property every time. Get the property every time. And this is about 98% of what I do. I do very few liens, and my students don't do very many liens. We mostly want the property. So we buy deeds. And how do we do that? Well, let's take the same deal. 2024, they did not pay their taxes. They're late. The lien was created by the county, but the county did not sell it because under their law, they cannot sell it. So they hold, they hold, they hold. And when it does not redeem, they foreclose. They do it. Then they will hold an auction, and the opening bid at the auction will just be the back taxes and foreclosure expense. So the opening bid is the exact same price you would have paid for the property if you bought the lien and foreclosed yourself. The opening bid is the exact same price as if you bought the lien, waited, and foreclosed yourself. The difference is, in a deed auction, the price will be bid up. So it is going to be, you're going to pay more than buying a lien and getting the house, but we're still getting these properties at 50 cents on the dollar, down as low as 10 cents on the dollar. And the opening bid is going to be at 10 cents or less on the dollar. So we get some really good deals. Just had a student pick up a $40,000 lot in Killeen, Texas. Beautiful, beautiful lot, beautiful subdivision. She paid $1,400 for that lot. And that was just this last Tuesday, right? I just got a house day before yesterday from in Mississippi. And for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 980 square foot home, $6,774 for the house. Not for the lien, but for the house. So on my desk right now, I probably have there's one for 3,500. There's one for around 5,500. I've got a few of them at 8,000. That's what we do. So you don't tune out and say, I just want to buy liens, because we get deeds when we do it right. As cheap as you can get the lien almost. And you get the property every time. So it's a great benefit. But two different types of deed states. A straight deed state offers no redemption period, immediate ownership. You do not have a redemption period. You can sell it the next day. A redeemable deed offers a redemption period. They may or may not offer possession during the redemption period, but if you get redeemed, you get 12 to 25%, depending on the state, of your bid. So let's take Georgia, for example. Let's say the opening bid is just $10,000 of back taxes, and it's let's call it a $200,000 house in Georgia, and you win for 75 grand. If these people, they have 12 months to redeem you in Georgia. It's a 1-year redemption. If they redeem you, you get 20% penalty in Georgia, not on the $10,000 of back taxes, but on your $75,000 bid. So it's better than liens by far. and because you're earning interest on your bid, not on the back taxes. Furthermore, if they couldn't pay 10 grand and now they got to pay 75 plus 20% penalty, what's the likelihood they're going to redeem you? You're getting that house, guys. You're getting that house every time. Okay. Now, how are they sold? These are sold at live auctions. And do I like live auctions? Absolutely. I am getting on a plane on the 30th of this month, and I am flying to Terre Haute, Indiana, small little town. And I've got students that are joining me from around the country, and we're going to participate in an auction together. It's one of the things that I do as a trainer, as a teacher. I don't just teach theory. I say, here's the auction I'm going to, meet me there. And I'll hit you in the arm and make sure you put your hand up and bid, because this is going to be a great auction. But yeah, I like live auctions. I don't go to all of them, of course. You can't. There's just not enough time. But we have a lot of doors in southern Indiana, so when there's auctions there, I go because I got to go check on my properties anyway. Texas, we have grandkids in Texas. We go to the Texas auctions in Hill Country. So if you want to travel, time it around your auctions. My wife is from the islands. She's Samoan, and I went to school in Hawaii, and it's where our kids were born. So we go to the auctions in Hawaii every year. I've never won one, but we're going again this year. Okay? So if you like to travel, write your trip off and time your travel around the auctions that they're holding. They're a lot of fun. But a huge number of online auctions occur every month. There's over 100 online deed auctions every month, coast to coast. So you don't have to travel. You can do this from home. And this is my favorite way, buy them after the auction. The post-auction inventory has no competition. It has no season. We can buy these year round and nobody's bidding up the price. You do have to have the skills to make sure it's a good property, because very often these are properties that need a lot of love. So you have to have the skill set to be able to know how to do that. So the good news is you own it. The bad news is you own it. So remember, research is everything. Here's a house over the counter. This is an over the counter. Remember, oh, yeah, I told you about it. $6,774. Who would pay that for this property? Right? Actually, I'm sorry. $5,250 for this one. 67 is one that's in the same town. That's Jackson, Mississippi. So this is an earlier deal. $5,250 is the offer. It'll rent for $1,000 a month. The fix up on that's going to be about $30,000. It needs a lot of work. Now, please understand that in Mississippi, the remodel cost is going to be significantly different than in Boston. Right? Your labor is amongst the highest in the country where you live. And I just want these numbers oftentimes seem unreal. $30,000 is a pretty big rehab, but all we do in Mississippi, we have over, the group that I work with, we have over 300 single family rentals paid for cash in Birmingham, Alabama. Average rent on those is $1,000 a month gross. Our net on that is averaging right at 24% net, triple net. Well, how do we do that? Well, we don't fix them up very nice. You need to understand, this is Mississippi, this is Birmingham, Alabama. All we're doing is getting it to be safe, clean, and for that area, it's a solid rental. But we're not going in and tearing out walls and making it open concept and putting it on HGTV, guys. We're landlords. So we have really, really good inventory. All of them are Section 8 approved. Doesn't mean we rent them Section 8, but we make sure we do it to Section 8 standards, because in this market, Jacksonville, where you're looking at this house, this market has thousands of people with vouchers and not enough inventory. There's a problem. And we like these markets because they do not mess with your property. There's so little inventory and so many people with vouchers that if they mistreat the property, they'll lose their voucher. So they take really, really good care of our rental properties. We love that. And I would prefer, by the way, to have them own it. Here's one in Arkansas. I won this one at auction for $44,000, fixed it for $38,000. This is a 2,400 square foot, 4-bed, 2-bath. We sold it for 124, if you can believe it. Okay. So in it, all in, um, the gross profit was $42,000 on an $82,000 spend. It's a 50% deal for a flip. And how many flippers would do backflips to make 50% margin? Right? So just fantastic deals when you do it the right way. A little more on this deal, though. This is an interesting deal. The opening bid was just the back taxes. It was $6,000. I won at auction, but I paid 44, so there was $38,000 of extra money that I paid to buy this. Now that money is not the county's. It's actually the blessing and benefit of the people who lost their home. It's called overage, and we help them get that. So we give a hand up and help the people who lose their home get the equity that's available to them. And if you think about cash for keys, we don't have to come out of pocket any more money to get them cash for keys. We can help them go right down to the county and help them get $38,000 that the county is holding on their behalf. Now, here's the thing. Our county government is going to become very, very good at not giving the overage to people. What they do in many places is they put a statute of limitation on. They say if you don't come in and claim it within this time period, it becomes the property of the county. Or in most places, they will notify the old owner at their last known address, which was where? Well, the house I just bought. So they're never going to know that they have this money. And it is a joy for me to be able to help people restart their life. In fact, quick show of hands, if you had enough property, how many of you would help the person that lost this one, gets 38 grand, and do an owner finance for them on one of your properties that they can better afford? Can I see your hands? Yeah. So we just bring that right back in, put them into more of our inventory. I love it. Here's one that we did with overage. This is in Waco, Texas, this one right here. Waco's really, really hot right now because of Chip and Joanna Gaines and their TV show. We bought this one on the 4th of July on a Tuesday. Texas doesn't mess around. They're going to hold their auctions on the first Tuesday of every month, even if it's a national holiday. This was purchased at a live auction on July 4th, 2022. We won it for 42 grand in Waco. And when people, in 2022, it was crazy. You'd get multiple offers on a flip in a week, right? And highest and best was happening quickly. Well, gosh, we were at an auction with just 4 or 5 other people and picked this up for 42 grand. The owner did still live in it. We helped him get $27,000 of overage. And for this gentleman, we did give him an extra $3,000 cash for keys because I like the guy so much. And we helped him move in with his daughter. And then he had $30,000 in his pocket to be a blessing. He actually didn't own the home. He did own it technically, but he inherited it from his mother. And he just was in a physical situation where he couldn't fix it, and it needed to have a lot of love. We went ahead and rehabbed it for $30,000 and leased it to a solar sales company for $1,700 a month, 5-year lease. So $75,000 all in with $1,700 a month lease. That's a 27% net cap. How are your properties doing on their cap rate? Are you getting in the 20s? It's difficult to get to 20 unless you can really buy them cheap. So I hope that helps, gives you some ideas of some things we can do with properties. So post-auction purchasing is my favorite way to get properties, and you pay just the back taxes plus the foreclosure expenses. Here's a post-auction purchase. It's generally going to be land, so you have to be trained on what do I do with lots. Well, this is a 1/4 acre lot in Florida in between two $350,000 houses. The lot was, I paid $1,200 for the lot, turned around and sold it for 12 grand, and let her make payments to me. She'll pay $15,000 on that lot over time. So this is a 10x deal, or what I call a 10 power deal. We're getting 10, 15, 20 power deals on our land right now, because if you think about what goes on at an auction, people at the auction want a house. They want a house in a good neighborhood. They want it in a good school district. They want low crime. They want it close to shopping, close commute. Who's bidding on that? Well, everybody. You know what they're not bidding on? Land. They're not bidding on this. That's a $15,000. Well, it's a $20,000 lot. I sold for 12. Why did I sell it for 12? It's a $20,000 lot at the time. It's actually a $45,000 lot now. But why did I sell a $20,000 lot for 12 grand? To sell it, because dirt does not sell quickly. And write this down. Price solves all problems. If you want to sell something, make it cheap enough. There's going to be somebody willing to buy it. And if they know the value is 20 grand and you're willing to give it to them for 12 and finance it. I financed it for her so that I could make more than 12. I also financed it for her. Her name was Marie Carmel from Haiti. And I closed my land on my own. When she gave me a call, she had a Haitian accent and she said, "Allo?" And as soon as she said, "Allo," I thought you can have the land. I fell in love with her little French accent. It was so cute. So I gave her a better deal than I probably should have, but we made a bunch of money on it. Okay. So just rinse and repeat. With dirt, we want to go from one lot to two lots just with the down payment. She gave me a $3,000 down payment on an acquisition of 1,200. So we 2x'd just the down payment. Go buy two more lots. And then buy four more lots with that down payment, and then eight more with the next down payment set, and then 16 more with the next down payment set. And for my students, I want everybody to have 30 to 50 lots on finance. Imagine going to your bank account or to your mailbox if they don't pay you electronically, and having 30 to 50 checks ranging from $100 to $500 a month with no tenant, no roof, no water heater, no mold, no asbestos, no property management. It's just cash. And they don't even own the property until they complete the deed. When they complete the contract, you give them the property. Until then, it's your property. So there's no need to foreclose. If they don't pay you, you issue a quit and pay letter, quit or pay. And if they quit, you keep all the money they gave you as a down payment and all the payments, and you go ahead and rinse and repeat and sell it to somebody else. So I think land is, especially when we use tax liens and tax deeds to get it, is a part of a portfolio that just rounds out our real estate, right? We need our assets that are going to get big and make us wealthy, and those are houses and multifamilies and commercial. But we also need this thing as just consistent cash flow for the next 20, 30 years, right? I call it sexy dirt. It's one of my favorite strategies. All right, this is a sexy dirt deal. I'll go quickly through it. This was not financed. I tried to finance it, but the guy just bought it. I bought this. Now, when I advertise my dirt, I use big, huge signs. Just read this for a moment. It says another amazing lot ready for you. Easy financing for all. Guaranteed approval, lot 602. There's my phone number. Camp, play, bug out, hideaway, 10 acres with pond frontage, right? That went up at 12:30 p.m. and by 4:30 p.m., that check was deposited to me. Same day, double my money. It's not a bad way to go. That's 600% annualized because it did take me 2 months to get the deed and then sell it. So I just annualized that at 600. Okay. So the keys to doing this, the keys to scaling, the keys to being good at this is you just have to develop the skill set. The skill starts with putting on value goggles. You have to be able to look at what everybody else looks at, but see what nobody else sees. These lists are free. They're available to the public. There's going to be a lot of people looking at them, and they're going to see an ugly 65 VW bus. They're going to see a house in Mississippi that nobody lives in and it needs a bunch of work. They're going to see ugly. But I've been trained, and I train people for years now to look at what everybody else is looking at, but see what they don't see. That's my baby right there, guys. I bought that VW bus for $3,500. When I saw it, I did not see that rusty piece of garbage on the left. I saw what is on the right, a $175,000 21 window, 65 split window bus. I wish I had done the resto on it even better because same year, same model went for 302. Mine just isn't good enough to fetch that. But the value was there when it was ugly. The value is there when it was ugly. And in real estate, we make our money on the buy. So don't shop for what everybody's shopping for. They want fast, easy, cheap, free. They want a nice, easy flip. They want an easy rental that's going to spit out 8%. You got to shop differently. All right. Where's the best place in the country to work? Wherever you find a good deal. The biggest hang up you're going to have is getting your brain wrapped around owning real estate that is not near you. The answer to that is, listen, are you going to go swing the hammer? Are you going to go replace the water heater? If the answer is yes, then you don't own the business owns you. The thing that most real estate investors never do is get to a position where their business operates without them. If you cannot take a vacation for a month without stress, there's a problem. You need to be able to make the business work for you. And that doesn't mean it's next door. It just means you have good teams. That's why REIAs are so important. It helps you develop your network like nothing else. So be a part of a great network. Okay. And I think, and you all know you found one here with Boston REIA. So look in your old backyard unless your backyard sucks. Your backyard does not suck, but your auctions are very competitive. However, what you'll find good deals on in Massachusetts are fully improved vacant lots, sexy dirt, because it's not being shop for at your auctions. You will find really good deals in cabin areas up in the mountains where people want to build a cabin. They build a subdivision with a dirt road. They bring power in. You got to drill your own well. You got to have a septic tank. They put a gravel road up there and then subdivide a bunch of cabin lots. People buy those thinking one day I'm going to build a cabin, and then they don't. They don't pay their taxes on it. And those are great deals because people just, they're not looking for it. They're looking at what everybody else is looking at. You look at it, but you see what they don't see. You invest where I can't see that. Just, let me see. I can't move my picture either. Read it. I can't see it. Okay. Let's move forward because I can't see that with your pictures are in front of it. All right. Here's a case study. This is Tate Olivison. He acquired, gosh, I got to figure out how to move this picture of mine. I can't see my cursor, so probably not going to work. Oh, there we go. No, not working. Anyway, Tate acquired, I can't see it. Sorry, guys. Can you see that? Or is my picture blocking it?
No,
No.
we can see it.
It's so strange. I'm going to try to figure out why I can't see my cursor.
Duncan?
I don't know.
Kelly, do you want to read it maybe for the audience?
Oh, there we go. I put you all down at the bottom. Now I can read it. Okay. So this case study here, he acquired 2 houses, 1 fourplex, 2 lots for $147,000 total. His total ARV in his first year as a student of mine was $970,000. And in fact, Tate in 2024 did 6.5 power, 6.5x his first year, switching from a traditional, he still is a traditional real estate investor, but he took a bunch of his portfolio that was not as performing as well as he wished, and he moved it into assets that were performing at 650%, 6.5x. Okay. Key number 2, master the 7-step research system. I don't have time tonight to go through the research system, but it's my proprietary 7-step system. And what it is it's just a check the box system. If you don't have, if it doesn't tick the box, then you're done with that property and you move on to the next one. So what it does is it eliminates mistakes. In real estate, it's a lot easier to lose money than it is to make money. Okay. It starts with acquiring lists. And I'm just going to put the steps up so you can have it on the recording here. You acquire the list. They're available for free from the county 30 days to 45 days before the auction. Then you funnel the list using logic. What is likely going to be something you're interested in, and that logic is not as common sense as you might think. And then you go get a property profile. Do not go to the address before you check the county documents. Make sure that you like it on paper at a county level because we're buying it from the county. And then you check it out on Google. Because sometimes if we don't check it out at the county first, Google gets the address wrong. If we go straight to Google, we may think it's this. But if we look at the county document before going to Google, we realize it's this, right? So we have to see what's on the county document first. Then we go to Google and check all of that out. Then we'll figure out what it's worth. And listen, members of REIAs don't need a lot of help comping properties. You guys are probably pretty darn good at it. But It is important to learn how to comp on the low end because we are not fixing these to fancy fix and flips. We're not fixing these to high-end rentals. We're not fixing these to short-term Airbnbs and VRBOs. We're fixing these to be wholesale, sell as is, not even fix them at all, just clean them out and sell them to a flipper. That's a big strategy for my students. Or we're fixing them to where we can buy and hold and rent. So those are our main two strategies. Very seldom will we ever do a full flip. Then you do the math. Make sure that you're going to make money. I want you to make sure your margins, if you keep it, are going to be netting you 20% or higher. I want to make sure that if you're exiting the property through a sell as is or a wholesale, or through a fix and flip, if you did that you're going to be receiving in the neighborhood of 40 and 50% plus. Okay. Step 7 is you need a local realtor or property manager. If you're going to sell it as is, most of my students, when they come on board, their goal is to do 2 or 3 properties, not fix them up, clean them out, take 10 or 15 grand, sell it for 30, 35, do that 2 or 3 times and prove out the concept. When they've proven out the concept, then they can scale and go in a different direction. So that's the direction most of my students take. And in that situation, you don't need a property manager, you need a realtor. You need one that's like Sarah, who's an investor-friendly realtor, because most aren't, right? So you need somebody who knows how we speak and how we think. If you're going to get into the hold game eventually, and I would recommend you prove out a few. I don't like the term wholesale. I call it sell as is, because wholesale is not really buying it and selling it. It's brokering the deal. So this, you're buying and you're selling as is. You need that realtor. And when you have the realtor, they will provide you with the handyman. They'll provide you with the roll-off dumpster companies. They have all the contacts you need to be able to do something as simple as clean it out and move it. Okay? Here's a case study. These guys did a flip. This is Devontae and Taylor. They got their first deal completed and done in less than 4 months from starting. Purchased the property for $39,000 in central Louisiana, where they live. Actually, this is a backyard deal for them. They fixed it for $60,000 and sold it for $130,000. And one of the things that I teach at my 2-day is how private equity, private capital actually works. I am not a fan of the letters OPM because it's a, excuse me, but it's a bastardized term. People don't really teach the real way. They say, go find somebody with money and then ask them what they want and then go find what they want. That's backwards. You need to find a deal and then take it to somebody with money, because the deal will sell them. If you have to do the pitch, if you have to sell them, you did it wrong. Your deals should be so good. All you got to do is show it to a serious investor and they're going to want in. With private equity, I don't do debt partners anymore, only equity partners. So imagine that, doing a flip with no hard money, but none of your own money. That's what these kids did right here. Somebody else put up all the cash to do that. They had to make no monthly payments. They had no debt to carry. The person that put up the cash got all the cash back plus their money on the exit. Step 3, or key number 3, is you got to be trained. This is a different beast. I know I'm speaking to seasoned real estate investors, most of you. Some of you are just getting into this, but many of you have had a lot of success already. And one of the dangers of being successful in real estate when it comes to tax liens and tax deed investing is thinking, well, I already know real estate, so I'll just try it. No, it's a different level of expertise. It's a different game. And a great example of this is Michael Jordan was the best basketball player in the world and thought that because he was a great athlete, he could just go play baseball and be great. And come on, Red Sox fans, how'd that work out? It didn't. The guy can't play. He could not play baseball. I shouldn't say, I mean, he's athletic. He played, but really, why was he on a team? Was it because he was a great baseball player, or was it because he sold beer and peanuts? It's because he filled the stadium up. Because you're good at X does not mean you'll be good at Y. It's a different sort of training. And my suggestion is you be very careful with who trains you. If you're going to go to the gym and get fit, don't hire that guy. Hire somebody who's actually done it. And one of the things that me and my company were very proud of is every deal we do, every deal I've shown you, every deal we do, we back up with proven public record. And when you're going to a conference and you have a guru stand up and tells you about this deal and that deal, they should be able to substantiate that. So I have what I call a brag book, and you can see here's the price that we bought it for, there's the cost of the deed, and there's the proof of what we sold it for. It's right there on Zillow. You can go into any address and you can see the sales history. So you can see what it was bought for. You can see what it was sold for. It's a matter of public record. And I think it's important that if you're going to hire a trainer, you work with somebody who has a public record, something that you can check out, something that's meaningful, something that's no BS, that does what they say they do, so that you then have somebody to follow. The thing about training, mentoring, is we all need it. Nobody is good at anything without learning from somebody else. I say this often, and Duncan and Kelly, you're welcome to steal it. But human beings only learn one way. We learn from pain. That's the only way we learn. What we get to do is decide if it's ours or somebody else's. And education, membership in a network like this, or coming to my workshop, all you're doing is paying to learn from my pain of 34 years of doing this. Do you follow? It's just accelerating your learning curve, but expecting to learn it on your own pain-free is a fool's vision. It just doesn't work. In fact, Richard Branson said this, no, it was mastery through training. Look, I've trained over 250,000 people around the world, 17 countries. Been doing it a long time, not to brag. Richard Branson said this: if you ask any successful person, they will have always had a great mentor at some point along the road. I hope by the end of this presentation now you're feeling like, one, I actually know what I'm talking about. Two, you would, if you're interested in tax liens and tax deeds, you would trust me to at least give you guidance in the right direction with actual actionable steps that you could deploy, whether or not you did any kind of a grand mentorship with me. So let's take a little bit of time and go through where you are right now. I spent a lot of time studying peak human performance because as a coach, as a mentor, I want my students to perform at the highest possible levels. And here's the way your brain works. Whenever we gather new information, okay, your brain is going to go through a process. Now, knowing what to do is never enough, right? Knowing is not enough. You got to take action. So the brain comes in and says, okay, I learned something new. Did it make sense? So the first thing the brain does is it just looks for logic. And if it's incongruent, you've had this, right? In your mind, it sounded like it was making sense, and then you spent a little more time noodling it, or you talked to somebody else about, and then all of a sudden it misfired, and it just didn't, the logic didn't hold. So right now, hopefully you're saying that made sense. And then the next thing the brain does is it says, okay, so now that it made sense, is it applicable to me? Do I need to do better than my 4 to 8%? Do I need to do better than my 8 or 10 or 12% cap rates? Do you need 16 to 24%? Do you need to have debt-free ownership of properties with net cap rates in the mid-20s? I don't know. I don't know if that is something you feel you need. If it is, then the brain is going to say, yeah, I want that. That makes sense to me. And then the next steps, the brain's going to go, what do I need to do to make that happen? So that's the logical process that we go through as human beings when we're presented with new information. And hopefully at this point, your question is, okay, what do I need to do? So let's just discuss the 2-day Fast Track to Success training. It's going to be held on March the 21st and 22nd, live but virtually on Zoom, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Friday, and 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is Pacific time. So add your 3 hours to that. 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time, or excuse me, on Saturday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. What are we going to be learning there? Well, one, it's 16 hours of training with me. I'm actually teaching you myself, live, hands-on. You will receive 6 training modules before you attend. These training modules are about an hour and a half of video in preparation to attend. One of the things as a trainer, when I do master classes, is I don't like people to show up wherever possible. Of course, if you can't do it, I'm not going to kick you out, but there's a difference between students who are prepared to be students and people who come in cold, right? People who did their homework and people who didn't do their homework. So I provide a 6 video module course between now and the 21st, about an hour and a half that you watch. Some of the videos are 25 minutes and some of them are, 10 minutes. But if you'll watch those, it'll prepare you to get much more out of the 2 days. The 2 day conference is for you and a guest. Now, if you and your guest can be in the same room, connected at the same time, that's best for feedback. If you're not going to be in the same room, connected to the same device, so that you don't have any audio feedback on Zoom, then make sure they're in a different room or a different home. So for those of you with business partners or significant others that don't live with you, they could log on. You can share the same link and come in. That's fine. But I would prefer, if you're together in the same household, use one login so that we don't have feedback issues. It is, as I said, live training with me. We're going to be going over the online research tools. You have access. If you enroll tonight, you'll have access as soon as tomorrow, and you will have access to the research tools, the state map. You'll have over 200 hours of video training you'll have access to for 60 days. During the 60 days, use it as often as you want. I don't limit it. I don't throttle it back. Just use any of my resources for my full-blown students for 60 days. After 60 days, if you would like to keep going with access, just give us an email at support@Tax Lien Tutor, support@Tax Lien Tutor, and we can set you up with a subscription. I think the subscription, don't hold me to this, but I think it's $39.97 a month. $39 a month. A 7-step check the box system is what we're going to be teaching. That's the bulk of our education. A one-on-one personal consultation you'll have the opportunity to do that with one of my team. Now, my team, I've worked very hard over the last 31 years to fire every employee that I had, to get rid of all of my trucks, to quit being a general contractor, to make my business work for me. So everybody that works with me now shares my DNA. That's going to be my wife, my 2 daughters, and their husbands. And that's my team. Actually, my son as well, and he does all of my web development stuff. I do have one other daughter. She does not work in the family business. She is an owner of the family business, as they all are, but she doesn't work in it. She's a school teacher, and that's her passion. Her husband, a doctor, invests with us, but he's a doctor, and that's his passion. But I share that with you because when you're being consulted in a one-on-one consultation, you're actually being consulted by one of my son-in-laws who's been an investor with me and a part of my business for 16 years. And they're going to be teaching you exactly what we do as a family to grow our wealth as a family. And it's a unique way to do it. No one else in the space has the ability to do it or the gumption to do it. But it's the way I run my business. I run my business as a family business, or a family office. If you've ever heard of a family office, that's us. Then we have 12 months of free support. 12 months of free support at support@taxlientutor.com when you enroll with us. And you can reattend my 2-day conference over and over again for the rest of my life. As long as I'm teaching those live or online, you can attend and reattend, you and a guest, free. And that can be a different guest. So you might want to come the first time and assist that with you and your spouse. And then if you're old like me, you've got kids that are interested in investing, the second one you attend, maybe you and your son or daughter, and start building your team of network that can support you. Because it's much easier in life to have a team you love that actually understands and supports what you do. Now, that's not the case for all of my students. I have students where Judy Sweeney, she's great. She's 74 years old. She'd hate me to hate that I told you that, but she's 74. And she did over $300,000 last year, and her husband just fishes. He's done. He doesn't want anything to do with it. Nah, it's your money. Do what you want with it. That's their relationship, and they're very happily married, but he has nothing to do with her business, and she can't stop. She's a deal addict. She loves it. So anyway, so that program, what you see right there, if you were to go and check it out on my website. You can go to taxlientutor.com. You'll see it one-on-one when people go through my SEO and my pay-per-click and all of the stuff that I have to do and pay for. That program is over $4,000 to be able to participate in. That's $3,997. But then there's also the fee for the course. The 6 courses are an additional $400. So it's basically $4,500 if you were to get everything that's on the screen right there. Through REIAs, and I made this decision years ago, I get to talk to people who are serious. I get to talk to people who are actually investors, not just dreamers who went to a hotel to get some free food or whatever. I'm talking to real people who are serious. And I'm talking to, I don't know, 35 of you here tonight, I hope, something like that. And this is being recorded and others will hear it. So here's the deal that I do for my REIAs. As a member of the REIA, as a person that's on here tonight, even if you're just visiting, that is reduced to $297 for you and your guest. And that's it. I can do that because it's going to be virtual. My cost on Zoom is fixed, and I can have as many people as I want in the room. So it's $297. The way that you would enroll, and you need to enroll either, please do it as soon as possible because we need to email you, get you in our system, get your name badges made. And well, actually, no, because it's not a live event, so we won't need name badges, but get enrolled as soon as possible, and just use this QR code. So if you take your phone up there, turn your camera on, boop, it'll launch. I'll come back to the QR code in just a second. It will launch this, and the button to buy now for $297 is right underneath that ugly dude on the right-hand side. Okay? So if you'll just QR code for $297, there it is. All right, I'll leave that up for a little bit, and if just for another minute or so, and then I am going to go to questions, Q&A, and this is ask me anything. There's nothing out of bounds. In fact, I'm going to recommend a book for all of you who run your own business. I just finished reading it, and it's changed the way we're doing everything in our business. It's called They Ask, You Answer. So you ask me any questions, and I'm going to give you the answer. If I don't have it, I will admit that I don't have it, but I think that's the best way to move forward. So let's go ahead and we'll go to question and answer. Raise your hand, or you're electronically or otherwise, if you need any additional understanding there.
Yes, Jason, we do have some questions here.
Please.
And starting with Janice, who is one of our fantastic members. She said, question for later, RE counties or real estate counties that allow bidders to bid down the interest rate. I think I saw that for some Florida counties, how to work in those counties or just avoid them.
All Florida bids down. That's the law for Florida. So every county, there's 67 counties in Florida. All of them are bid down counties. Of the 67 counties, 63 provide their auctions online with three different online auction platforms that I'll give you at the event. And you can go ahead and bid down. I don't. For 6 years, I have told my students avoid Florida because what we want is the property. And in Florida, it's a dual state. So even if you bid down to zero, which you have to because any good property is going to go to zero, and then they have a lottery system built into the auction. And one of the 50 or 100 or 300 people that bid zero is going to be selected to win 5%. If you do not get paid back, you cannot foreclose on the property. You have to contact the county and pay a $600 deed application. And then they do the foreclosure and they take it to a deed auction. And the opening bid at the deed auction is your money, everything you have spent. And if anybody bids, you're out. You get all your money back with your interest. You will not get the property. So in Florida, instead of liens, just participate in the deeds. And the deeds, you can find deals. They're just expensive. They're going for pretty close to retail in any of the hot markets. So in Cape Coral, we were picking up lots in Cape Coral for $1,500 10 years ago. Today, the same lot at auction is going for 30 grand. Same lot. Lehigh Acres, which was horrible. We were picking up lots for $500, $600. We were picking them up over the counter for $200, and we would sell them for $12,000, for $13,000. Today, in Lehigh Acres, those lots are going for 25 to 30. So yeah, it just Florida, it caught fire. As soon as California figured out that it was pretty cool, the prices went nuts.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I understood is you do all the work to get the lien, but then other people can bid against you. So it's like, why bother
Yeah.
to do that work?
No,
And
there's better
I do
states.
live in California, so it's
We're in
deeds,
California.
San Diego. So
Well,
almost
that
anything
on the
good
seventh
is
day when
already,
God rested, he went to San Diego. I have it on good
yeah,
authority. That's what he told me.
yeah. Well, I'm
But
from Milton. I'm from the Boston area, but
awesome.
everything everything that's really sold at the auction here has already been the good stuff's been redeemed. Let's put it that way.
You know what? 17, 18 years ago in San Diego, they used to finance us to buy deeds.
That
They
would be
would
great.
they would give us 5% down or $7,000, whatever was more, and 90 days, same as cash, no interest. That's
Wow.
San Diego has changed a lot. Nowhere in California will they do that anymore. But there are still good deeds on land in if you go up Inland Empire, right? You got to get up into Riverside and San Bernardino and some of those areas are a little bit further away from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody
Uh,
else?
Yes. So Li Jiao was saying or asking if they buy the lien, is there property tax in 2025, 26, and 27, and who will pay it?
There is property tax every year, and it is the homeowner's responsibility to pay the tax. So let's say you buy the tax lien, and then they failed to pay the next year. That will create a new tax lien. In almost every state, every state but Florida, you will be notified by the county that there is a new lien on the same property you own a lien on, and you will be invited to buy it at full interest without it going to auction. It's called first right of redemption. Okay? You should do that whenever you are given the opportunity. Florida does not do that. So check this out. I'm going to say that was is the name Li Zhu?
Uh, oh, I've already scrolled up. Li
That's
Jiao.
okay. Li
Yeah.
Zhao. I'm going to say Li Zhao owns the first one. I buy the second one, and Kelly, you own the third one. Let's say it's a 3-year redemption. So the first year Li Zhao bought it. I bought the second one, the second year, and then Kelly, you bought the third one. Which one of us is in first position? Well, everybody.
Yeah.
But who is firstest? Well, Li Zhao, because she has 3 years to wait before she can start foreclosure. We have 3 years to wait before we can start foreclosure. Her time period comes before ours. She starts foreclosure, and they will make her, to do the foreclosure, they'll make her pay the taxes associated with our liens and the interest. So you and I will get redeemed by Li Zhao, not by the homeowner. Then she'll foreclose. And if they stop the foreclosure, she will get all of her money back. The money for hers, the money for ours, plus the interest to us. She'll get all of it back, and the legal fee. So no way to lose on that.
Wow,
Good
that makes
question, though.
sense.
That's a deep.
Yeah.
That's a deep water question.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and then once again, Janice had also asked, so with deed states, you buy at the end, excuse me, you buy at the deed auction and don't even own the lien?
No, at a deed auction, in a straight deed state, so that's going to be California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Utah. The vast majority of deed states are going to be straight deed. Massachusetts is a straight deed state. There's no redemption. But Rhode Island has a redemption period. So let's just take the difference between Massachusetts and Rhode Island, okay? You buy a deed in Massachusetts, it's your house, you can sell it the next day. You buy a deed in Rhode Island, and you got to wait 2 months for the redemption. They have 2 months to give you your money back plus 12%. So you just have to wait. Texas is redeemable, but Texas lets you take possession of the house and rent it. You just can't sell it until the redemption period is over. So redeemable deeds are a little funky. They're my favorite because they're harder. Hard is good. Hard keeps your competitors away once you have the knowledge to do it.
Yeah. Okay, now we've got one from our very own Boston, REIA, Duncan, and he always knows the right questions to ask, or good questions. And so he sent it 4 parts. How do you get money for the auction? Is there a fee to bid or resist? online, how do the know, how do you know you have the money? And also, I heard about large corporations coming in and buying everything. Is that true?
Large corporations will buy in your area, especially in New York, because that's the banking epicenter of the country is New York City. They're all going to have headquarters in, well, they're Delaware corporations, banks are, but they're headquartered in New York City. New York City doesn't sell any liens to anybody in the public. They sell them all to banks and hedge funds in the 5 boroughs. Okay, so you can't even get a deal there because the banks buy them all. But I don't work there anyway, and I don't buy liens because I want the properties. So banks do not buy properties; they don't want them because that ties up their revenue. They want to loan money and they want to borrow and they want to invest in secured infrastructure. So in the lean world, in large markets like Boston and New York and Chicago, where they can fly in or live there and they can do the auction, you're going to compete against banks and hedge funds. So just draw a circle around the big markets and they're out. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we don't work in New York. That doesn't mean we don't work in Massachusetts. It doesn't mean we don't work in Illinois. We just don't work in those epicenters where the banks are going to go. See, bankers are lazy. They wear a suit. They want to go. They get on a plane. They get to the auction. They buy. They get on a plane. They go home. They don't do what you and I do. I'll go play around in Peoria, Illinois all day long, right? And I'll clean clock because they're not there. I'm competing against farmers. The value is still there. Value is so here's how to know if it's a good town. Is there a Walmart? Because Walmart doesn't screw up their demographic research. If they build a new Walmart, that town has jobs. So that's all I'm looking for is there enough economy? I don't need a rising economy. I buy in descending economies. Why? Well, because in descending economies, they don't pay their taxes because they moved. They don't want mama's house anymore in Jackson, Mississippi that they inherited. They don't live there. But if we buy that house for 6,000 and it's worth 90,000, we don't need an appreciating market. We can buy it for 6,000. We can just clean it out and sell it for 20,000 to somebody who wants to fix it and keep it as a rental. Price solves all problems.
Makes
Okay, and
sense.
that's how we determine our markets. So yes, you will compete against banks and hedge funds, but I don't because I don't work those markets and I don't buy liens anymore, or at least not very many of them.
Okay. All
Good
right.
question.
We've got Nantambu Nicholas who asks, what software, if any, do you use to filter the auction lists? I know the lists can
Excel.
sometimes be thousands of properties at a time.
Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
Your list is always, if they don't give it to you in Excel, you need to get it to Excel because we can use filters in Excel very easily. And we're going to filter first by property type. So if you're looking for single family residential, just filter for that and it'll be in the parcel number. You'll see the indicator for single family residential. For example, last three in most places, if you see a 001, that's going to be single family res. If you see 004, that's going to be residential fourplex. If you see a 100, that's going to be light commercial. So you'll learn these things, and the counties will give you the code to their parcel number, and we'll just sort the Excel spreadsheet, delete everything that's not interesting to us. The other thing we sort by is price. So if I want to buy a single family residential and the median household value is 200,000, then the taxes are going to be a median of 2,000, right? And I'm just going to filter by price. It's an easy way to do it on Excel. If they're $20,000, that's commercial or huge land. If it's $200, that's just a lot with nothing on it that's no good. So I can sort that spreadsheet in a matter of minutes and go from 5,000, 10,000, 18,000 is the biggest list that I work. And I can go from 18,000 down to 50 or 60 properties in a matter of minutes.
Okay. Next, we have Kathy Mahoney, and she said, I thought Massachusetts was a purple state. Redeemable deed?
If it is, my map would be correct. So if it has changed from a deed, then my understanding is it is a deed state. They may have recently changed, in which case my programmer would have changed that. So not
And,
sure.
I can tell you, Sarah was actually texting me a messenger while we were speaking, while you were speaking about that, and she might actually have a little input on that. Our investor friendly realtor.
Is it redeemable deed, Sarah?
Yes.
How long is the redemption period and what's the interest rate?
So sorry, I think I thought she was asking if it's deed or like or liens. So we don't do liens in Mass. You can't
No,
do
it's
liens.
it's a deed state.
The
Here, let
deeds.
me share a screen and I'll show you real quick. We'll just find out real fast. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to go to the Googly and go to Tax Lien Tutor. It's my website. I'll go to the member area, member login. If you guys want to log in, it's just Jason at taxlientutor.com and then it's dot 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 dot. And I'm not going to give you the password. Okay. So I log in and then I click on state reference guide. There's the 6 modules. Those of you who enroll for the 297, that's what I want you to watch before you come. We go to the map link and view now. And if we go down to Massachusetts, it's right there. It is a 16% redeemable tax deed with a 6-month redemption period. Very, very good eyeball. So that is a change over the last time I coached a student in Massachusetts.
Mm,
Awesome. Good catch.
cool. Now we all know.
Yeah,
All right.
6-month
Oh,
redemption. You're still paying a lot of money there, I'm sure, in most markets. But it's 6-month redemption if you get redeemed. So you would not get possession for 6 months, and then you would get 16% if they redeem.
excellent. Okay, Duncan Boston REIA has asked another question. Tell us more of the online process, register and money.
It depends. So every jurisdiction is going to have their own registration process. Some of them require that you pay a deposit. Florida requires 5% of your overall spend. If you're going to spend $100,000 at the auction, or you're willing to spend $100,000 at the auction, they require 5% on deposit at least 72 hours before the auction. Texas requires that you register without a deposit. If it's a live auction, no deposit, but you have to register 2 weeks before the auction. So it just depends. Arkansas, you register the morning of, no deposit, just walk in and you're good to go, and they let you pay by credit card.
Huh.
So it just depends on the jurisdiction. I wouldn't pay by credit card because they charge you
A fee.
4% or 3.5% for the credit card use. But
Okay,
yeah, it's convenient. You don't have to travel with cashier's check or cash.
right. Jurisdiction, state by state.
State by state.
Okay. And then we
The
have
rules,
Janice.
by the way, are written in PDF. When you go to the county tax assessor, you can read the rules right there for the auction, and it'll be a PDF you can download and study.
Excellent. Good tip. Okay, then once again, we have Janice asking, so I guess the hard part is you can wait 3 years to get your money interest when you buy a lien, correct?
You can, but Janice, I'm going to coach you into deeds. Getting the property is a better way to go. And we're getting the property for the same price as the lien, and we're making a lot more money a lot faster. So very few of my students are going to be lien-centric investors. The only time I'm encouraging you to buy liens is if the lien will likely develop into a deed, and there is a time frame, spring right now. There's one state that sells liens where I get the property 90% of the time, but those are the only liens I buy all year, and I just buy them in the spring. So we'll acquire between this month and next month through the last auction in that state for that particular weird thing they do. The last one is the first week of June. We'll probably get 40 new properties this year because we can pick them up for, I mean, I picked up a 5-bedroom, 2-bath at one of these auctions for $2,100. You can buy a lot of properties. I sold it for 15 because it was horrible, but
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so then Janice continued with another question. And how long does it take to sell a land deal if it's not bought by the owner next door?
Um, it's that's a loaded question. Land, the only way you're going to sell land quickly is if you make it cheap. The only way to sell it cheap, and I mean nearly 50% of competition, the only way to sell it cheap is if you bought it really, really cheap. So it's a loaded question. I never sell to the next door neighbor. If you have to sell to the next door neighbor, you bought the wrong piece. So we do not buy infill lots. Boston, or not Boston, let's take Detroit. Detroit is full of what is called infill lots. They tore down the house. So you have a house, gone. Used to be a house, but it's gone, gone, house, gone, gone, house, gone, 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 gone. Those lots are worthless. Why? Because nobody's going to build a brand new house in that neighborhood, not for another 2 or 3 decades. And you don't want to land bank those kind of lots because you owe tax on them all the time. So I'm going to teach you to do fully improved vacant lots. And you know what these are? Subdivisions with the flags, with a golf course and a nice community center. These things are worth a lot of money. But developers go belly up every 8 years, the economy cycles. And when they go belly up, there's going to be a percentage of those properties that they don't pay their taxes on. Give you an example. Over 400 lots, Horseshoe Bay, Texas. These are it's a lake development, Horseshoe Bay, Lake LBJ, and the developer went belly up, and you could pick up Lake LBJ for properties not on the lake, but in the development, you can pick them up very, very cheap. So it's desired, but you got to be able to sell them cheap, really cheap.
I guess
Otherwise,
my misunderstanding was you showed two houses with a lot in between, and I thought you sold it to one of the owners because they wanted
no,
extra land.
no, that was a development. It's called Palm Bay.
Yeah.
And Palm Bay, they're building brand new homes. So the criteria for that is that there needs to be new construction going on in the neighborhood. So that was not an infill lot, it was an in-between lot, but it wasn't a neighbor. It was a Haitian woman who's a nurse in Texas who was close to retirement, and she wanted to build a home in Palm Bay, Florida. And she was driving around with her husband, and she saw my big sign. And I do big signs on my lots.
Okay. So they
Yeah.
did buy it to build on. I thought maybe the neighbor just wanted a better yard.
No, the neighbor did buy the one that I showed you the check that doubled my money in 4 hours.
Yeah.
The neighbor actually called me and said, "How much do I have to pay to take down the sign?"
Okay. Got it.
My signs are big, and there's reasons for that. I don't have time for tonight, but I told him 12 grand. He said, I'm not gonna give you 12. I said, so you called me. What's your offer? He said 9 grand. I said, well, I'm getting on a plane heading home. So if you can get me 9 grand before 4:30, done. And he did.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the only
Very
reason
nice.
the only reason he bought it across the street wasn't just to get rid of the sign. He wanted access to the pond because he and his son go down there and go fishing. So
Wow.
So we bought a walkway.
he bought a walkway for 9 grand.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, with Duncan, well, there's two things, but with Duncan, how to do an auction if you don't have money first, private lender, even though you don't have a deal yet.
You do have a deal. The list is out well in advance, and you need to prove the deal to a private equity partner, not a lender. I don't do loans. So I'm going to go to a person, and I'm going to say, here's the property, here's what we're going to bid on, and I'm looking for an investor who'll put up the cash. And we'll put that into an account that you have control of, or however you want to do it, so that you're comfortable. And we'll participate in the auction and buy it with that cash. I can buy it in your name. I can buy it. I can give you a first deed of trust, a lien on it, whatever you're comfortable with. But the cash needs to be there before the auction. If I do not win, then the cash stays in the account that you have control over. Take the cash back. If I do win, then it'll come out of that account and pay for it. So we'll negotiate all of the partnerships pre-auction, and that's a process done in the 4 weeks before the auction that you've got to become good at. And ultimately, what you're looking for is just a few people who will come in and say, yeah, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. So finding investors is not difficult, right? I'm buying properties for, for as little as 2 or 3 grand. And for as much as most of my deals are going to be between $2,000 and $25,000. Finding an investor who will put up the cash for the acquisition is not that difficult. Now, here's the way I frame it. My partner buys it. I've done all the work to get it to this point. My partner buys it. We then split all of the rest of the fees 50-50, and we're 50-50 partners. So if there's a rehab, I put in half, you put in half, we go to work. But my partner buys it up to the agreed upon maximum bid at auction. If we don't win, then you didn't spend anything, and I spent time. Does that make sense? That's the way I like to run it. And once you get a few investors who like that, they don't care that they put up all the money to buy it because they're 50% owners. They can't beat it. Because we're getting properties at 10, 20 cents on the dollar, there's 80%, we're 80% under, and they own half of that. There's nothing better they can do with their money. When you run the numbers, a doctor, an orthopedic surgeon, a dentist, where are they going to put their cash to come anywhere close to that? They just can't.
Okay, then this is a good lead in, a segue. Darren Sensulo said, I'm in. How do I get involved?
Make sure that you got the code, or not the code, but the QR code. So I'll put that back up on the PowerPoint one more time here. Let me share my screen and take a picture of it on your phone. And if you don't know how to do the QR code and you don't have a teenager around to do it for you, just send an email. There's the code, the QR code. If you don't want to do it that way or you don't know how to do it, just send an email to support@taxlientutor.com. Support@taxlientutor, or text me at my cell phone, 801-358-6774. And one of my team members will call and do the order with you over the phone. But the easiest way is just to use the QR code. Okay?
Excellent.
I'm going to turn that off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Support@taxlientutor.com, the QR code, or text me, 801-358-6774. I've enjoyed this. Duncan, thank you. Kelly, Sarah, you guys are awesome. I'm excited.
Great stuff.
This is
Oh
going
my
to be a
gosh.
great group. I'm excited to
Gosh,
have
that
you
was a
guys
lot
on
of
with-
content. Excellent
Thank you.
stuff.
Yeah, I got a lot of my noodle. These two